We're rolling.
We're rolling.
Mics are on.
All right, boy.
Oh man. All right.
Back together again.
Back together, yeah, for sure. We're back. Yeah, it's just so interesting too. I was just thinking about this right before we were jumping on and just go to the bathroom real quick, and I was like, kind of caught myself in a way, like thinking about everything and starting to get in my head of like, oh, what do I want to say? All these different things because we sort of talked about what we want to maybe explore and get into.
Yep.
And I caught myself and I started to smile because I was like, I don't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the beauty of these whole conversations that we've been doing and this whole like experiment project, I guess. Is
Absolutely.
We just sit down and see what happens. And like, it just brought a big smile to my face because I was like, oh, I can't wait to see where this goes and how it all goes.
It's really beautiful. We just started, before we started rolling, we started with some beautiful breath work that you guided us through.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I just got to this idea about anticipation. I don't know, for whatever reason, it was on my mind. And just this idea that listening, and Rick Rubin, he says something so beautiful about this idea of like, we are so bad at listening, so often we'll be sitting with a friend or whoever it is, family or whatnot, and we already have the answer or what we want to say while they're still talking, which means we're not listening to them. And the amount of times, and just to throw myself under the bus here, that I catch myself doing this and just being like, let it go. Let it go.
100%. Yeah.
So thank you for fucking sharing that, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something we've touched on already in so many of our conversations of this idea of letting go and being like presence, like really being in that moment of like hearing somebody, hearing what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Without needing to share exactly like what comes up for you or comes up for me as I'm hearing it of like, oh, I want to say this thing because I think it'll get this certain reaction out of them, and less of, oh, this is like a truth that's coming up for me that like wants to emerge in the moment.
Yes.
Which I think is, it's a tricky thing to sort of decipher, or like really tune into the difference between those things.
I think it's just like, and I think it started from the very first conversation, and I really loved it. We keep coming back to it whether we like it or not, but that everything is a practice.
Yeah.
And that to be a better listener takes time and practice and calling ourselves out.
Yeah.
Hey, you weren't listening to her that whole time. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I really wanted to say that thing because I really did want to like provoke a reaction because I thought it was quite profound. So, so it means that your ego wanted to rule the, roost. But at least just accepting it and not judging yourself, not punishing yourself, just accepting and observing. I think that's something that I'm constantly trying to put myself in.
For sure. Yeah. Life is the practice in that way. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, like thinking of that idea of life as the practice. It's kind of a good segue into what we talked about.
Beautiful. I was wondering how we were going to get there.
This just came to me as you were sharing that, because that's something that has been coming up for me a lot around this theme of relationships and this theme of how we relate to people romantically, in friendships, in all of our relationships, with family, in all these different ways, and with all these different people. And like that mindset or approach of using relationships and that space of relating as another opportunity to practice.
Yes.
Is something that for me, I really kind of forgot recently, or just didn't have that same mindset, and had been feeling a lot of that shame and that judgment around the ways that I was showing up that felt, just kind of like out of integrity for myself. You know what I mean?
Thank you
Like
for
just
sharing it that
yeah,
way.
like and noticing. And for me, I think the story that was coming up a lot was like, fuck man, you've been doing all this work and you're still doing all these things. You still have all these patterns, you still have all these things. And just yeah, reminding myself that it is a practice.
Right.
And it's also unwinding like years, decades of doing things in a very habitual way
Yes.
that were learned and that were conditioned, all these different things. And so it makes sense that it's going to take some time
Very
to
much.
to unwind that.
Very much.
And yeah, just noticing how, and coming back to that, I notice myself like in my body, energetically, in my heart, feel so much more open and like relaxed. I can just come back to that idea of like, yeah, it's just a practice.
It's beautiful. Man, I thank you for sharing that because so often I have beaten myself up in the past for forgetting a truth that used to be important to me.
Mm.
And I'm
Oh,
realizing the
yeah.
older I get, and I'm really trying to just make this just a constant reminder that life is a process of remembering
Yeah.
as much as learning,
Yeah.
that maybe the learning is remembering. And I almost think if I come back to our last conversation, or was it the conversation before? Goodness, I can't remember now. But around children and
Yeah.
spending time with children,
Mm.
is we were all once children.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe we all once possessed a truth that we've lost, but we stumble back over every once in a while,
Mm.
of what it really means to be happy, of what it really means to savor a moment or to spend time with loved ones. Like,
Yeah.
and it has nothing to do with what we're told or what we see on Instagram, but it's just a feeling of like, this feels right.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's this gorgeous thing, like where we forget and then we come back to it, and then we're
Yeah.
like, oh. And you know the
Yeah.
thing, because it's so beautiful that we both seem to be going through something at a very similar time.
Right.
But just this week, I've had like this real emotional and spiritual turbulence come into my life,
Yeah.
romantically and platonically, with like friends and lovers, where it's like, oh, a constant like remembering of like, oh, I've been here before.
Mm.
And how did I let this happen again?
Yeah.
But I do think it's so important. And we had this gorgeous moment, I think it was in the last time we spoke, of like the importance of heartbreak,
Yeah.
you know, of going out on a limb in service to something bigger than us. This feels
Yes.
right. It feels scary, but I need to see where it goes,
Yeah.
because I've got one life to live. And if I don't do this, I will be on my deathbed being like, why didn't I take that road?
Yeah, for sure. Man. So many beautiful nuggets in there too. Just in that. So thank you for sharing all that. And yeah, it is so interesting. Like just the first piece that you touched on around that I love this idea of remembering, because that's often really what it does feel like in those moments, at least for me, when we break the pattern of the habitual thought or the habitual action, and there is that moment of like this in the space that comes with that. To me, it does feel like a remembering of, oh yeah, like this is possible, this is
Right. This
available
is
to me.
possible.
And when I break free of all the conditioning and all the ways that I've been operating, like my default programming,
Yeah.
that's so deeply ingrained and embedded, it's like in that space, it's a remembering and a discovering, I think, for me as well, in a lot of
Gorgeous.
ways, because it's remembering, I think, like that core truth or that core feeling and sensation around, or similar to like is that inner child's like coming through of like, oh yeah, this is what it feels like to just be fully expressive in my joy or
Yeah.
in my sadness or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And also discovering, what does that feel like for me now? What does that feel like for me today,
Mm-hmm.
as like the version that I am now? So yeah, like I'm not 8 years old anymore. But there is, yeah, kind of that. It's almost like a dance to me in a way, of like the
Mm.
remembering and the discovering of, oh yeah, like this is available to me, and what's what wants to come through in
Right.
this, as this new sort of version of myself,
Oh man.
in that way. And yeah, it's just it's so interesting to explore that, and start to really like tap into it. And relationships are just such fertile ground,
Oh
because
my
they just
goodness.
bring up
Yeah.
all of the shit.
The thing which is really beautiful, and I really would love to unpack this today, but just like how much these relationships are the perfect or the most beautiful mirror, sometimes really a terrifying mirror, like just how clear
Yeah.
certain things are, but how strangers um, or or not can reveal who we really are and what's really important to us,
Yeah.
more than we can ever do for ourselves at times.
Yeah.
And it comes back to something we were discussing on one of the chats, but like how we are relational creatures,
Yeah.
and that everything we are is only in relation to what is not. So we are the sum of, I believe, the stories in our lives and the teachers in our lives. So
Right.
the people that raised us, loved us into being, we share those stories, whether we know it or not, or like it or not. And so I almost feel like it's in spending time with significant others that we come to realize just what those stories are and what they mean to us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, like how much relationships are mirrors to that truth of who we are. And yeah, that can be terrifying as
Oh,
hell, to have to look at ourselves through that reflection and through that lens of the mirror, because it's like it's the mirror, but you're also seeing like the impact of how we do show up, and the those stories that we carry, and the conditioning that comes with all that, how that impacts the people in our lives. Which is just that added layer of like just, it's like, oh shit. Yeah, and just having to really like, yeah, own that, take accountability for it, and really be, you know for me, I think, in that space of like self-reflection, which I know you've touched on, um, there is kind of this sense of like ruthlessness to it, to have to really be sharp with that self-reflection, and really honest,
right.
and not again, not in a judgmental way,
Yep.
but in a way that's like, the sharper and more ruthless I can be with my own self-reflection about what my relationships, what the world is like reflecting back to me, and the feedback that I'm getting from that. It's really in service of, and in devotion to, more love, to being able to express that more truly and more freely. Because the more, at least this is what my experience has been, and what I've been really wanting to try to like integrate in a deeper level than I have been, and in a more like embodied way, I think, and less kind of up here.
Yes,
More
yes,
like,
yes.
more like in the body, and like
Yes.
actually living it. Yeah, which is just to know that, okay, I can be really ruthless and sharp with my own self-reflection, and very honest with myself, and receive that feedback that really stings, that oftentimes, that shows me all the ways that I've been showing up in a way that has like an impact on people, that may hurt people, that may upset them, that may, even if that's not my intention, or it may hurt myself. I'm betraying the truth of what I'm really feeling, and thinking in that moment, out of fear of rejection, out of fear of whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more that I can tune into that and really then begin to actually take the action steps to be like, okay, now how can I show up differently? How can I speak differently and go through that process of the integration and the embodiment, knowing that it's rooted in that desire and that devotion and like to be in service of something bigger than myself.
Beautiful.
Like that's what I think really has shifted for me, especially recently, is
Mm.
to be like, oh yeah, this isn't actually about me. You
Oh,
know, this
wow.
is about the love that, wants to move through me and that other people also want to express in themselves
Hmm.
and to feel.
Right.
And so that idea or, just yeah, that whole mindset, I guess, is something that has definitely shifted for me or shifted my approach to all this,
Man,
especially recently.
I fucking love it, man. It really just opened a new porthole for me of like, or portal. Porthole. But this notion, well, the two things, like making choices from love,
Mm,
fucking so profound and life changing.
yeah.
But I really believe you hit the nail on the head in that it can only come through what I call, or I borrowed or stole, radical acceptance.
Yeah.
Like you just have to be clear with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And, you'll see all these fucking note cards up above me. One thing that I've come from putting all of these ideas up on a wall is the discovery that the opposite of certainty, something that we're all seeking in life,
Right.
to me, is clarity.
Mm,
And clarity is, I think, a beautiful word, but it's quite scary,
yeah.
To really see things in true focus is startling sometimes, especially if we don't like what we see,
Yeah.
So we see certain patterns. Oh, I can be quite poisonous with the things I say to myself or to the people around me. Or the thing that is really tricky and something that I had to really be honest with myself in the beginning of all this work is how often I would take out my frustrations on the people I loved most,
Mm,
on the
yeah.
people that were closest to me. But what I came to realize coming back to love is that I didn't love myself. So these choices came from a place of self-loathing, a
Mm,
self-hatred,
yeah. Yeah.
of not liking what I saw.
Yeah.
And until we do that work, until we practice radical acceptance, we can never truly love ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Man, thank you so much for sharing that. And that the self love piece is so important. And I resonate with that so much too of projecting that frustration
Mm.
out onto the people that I love and care about. And it sounds like you have this experience too where I would always get caught in that cycle where when I would catch myself doing that
Mhm.
or it would be reflected back to me by somebody that I loved and cared about, I would like the way that I would speak to myself
Ooh.
was shocking. Like
Ooh.
I think about it now, and I still it still happens occasionally for me. But when I
Absolutely.
look back at where I was 5, 6, 7 years ago, even, but for so much of my life, like just the way that I would talk to myself is truly like shocking in
Mhm.
a lot of ways. And I think that's something that we often do.
Oh my God.
That it's and especially as men, I think it's a very common thing for us to really really be so critical, so hard on ourselves,
Mhm.
and really, I love the way you phrase that, like poisonous with the way that we speak to
Mhm.
ourselves. And it is so difficult in my experience to cultivate that self-love,
Ah.
to begin to love those parts of myself
Mm.
when I'm having that type of internal dialogue, when I'm having that type of really just holding those beliefs
Yeah.
about myself like so deeply.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad you brought this up, this piece around coming back to self-love and self-acceptance in wanting to just share more love with the world,
Mhm.
and liberate that through for ourselves, through ourselves, and through others too. Because that's something I've really noticed coming up for me as well. Is like that's often what gets in the way for
Mm.
me. Like one of my biggest patterns that I still have and that I'm still noticing is the ways in which I withhold. Like I
Ah,
withdraw and
yeah.
I really like it's just the walls come up
Mm-hmm.
around my heart and like the front of my body. It's just like, nope, you're not getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna give. I'm not gonna give anything to you either.
Thank you for
Because it's yeah,
yeah.
it's a reciprocal thing. It's
Yeah.
like not only are the walls going up to not receive
Yeah.
because I don't think that I'm worthy
Yeah.
of it, but I'm also not going to give either because if I give, there's the opportunity for rejection. And so it's just and it's all just the mechanism to keep ourselves safe. But yeah, that's the pattern that I really notice in myself.
And I just want to quickly pick up what you put down there because I think it's so important. And then just also to quickly share this great fucking quote that I saw from Snoop Dogg years ago that you can only get love when you give love.
Hell yeah.
And it's this, to me, it's like, it's the power of flow. Like, now we have to be willing to face the fact that we might give love and get nothing back in return.
Mm-hmm.
But then the larger truth that I think is that more of the end goal, like that's what we really want to be aspiring to, is to give without expecting anything in return. You give because you can give,
Yeah.
because it feels good to do it. Again, I think this all comes back to healthy foundations of radical acceptance of certain truths that we have lived by and then want to change to rewrite in favor of better ones. But I think that is such an integral part. And I also just want to quickly, I think we need to make time for this because I think this is a really important part to dealing with or reflecting on heartbreak or even just breakups with friends.
Yeah.
But like this notion of like shutting ourselves off, like this kind of fortress of solitude of like, no one can touch me.
Yeah.
But by that measure, then you can't touch anyone either.
Yeah.
You can't spread love. You can't sow seeds of promise. And that limits us. So I really believe, and it's a big part of like what was going on this wall, is like when we stand still, we get sick, you know? And it's this thing I wrote down yesterday that when we feel sad, we do bad. You know, as a rule, if we don't have certain techniques or tools in our toolkit to rewrite that, when we do sad, we take it out on other people. When we feel sad, we don't want to spend time with people. We don't want to go out. We don't want to have fun. We don't want to look after ourselves. We don't want to give love to ourselves. We don't want to enjoy all that life has to offer.
Yes.
At least, and I can only speak from my personal story.
Yeah, no,
this
absolutely.
is what I've done in the past.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, so grateful to you for sharing all that and bringing that up too. And that certainly has been my experience as well. Of it's like this, like the paradox of it of like I'm feeling like I need to protect myself, so I put the walls up from the one thing that's actually going to make me feel better. It's like I'm protecting myself to keep myself safe.
Yep.
But the only thing that's really going to make me safe is the love that I'm cutting myself off from.
Oh man,
it's like
there you go.
And you know, that's we all have our own versions of this and our own stories and reasons as to why, we have these patterns and all these different things. But it is so true, and I think we've touched on this before in some ways of knowing that when we give openly and when we give freely, we allow for that energy to also come back in and to receive it. And I do think there is with the self-love piece specifically, there's an important, for me, distinction, or I guess maybe like just a way that I wasn't aware of or conscious of before, which was that's the self-love piece, when we really are able to be in that state of acceptance and still love ourselves for all the patterns, for all the ways in which we can potentially hurt people or that we can hurt ourselves. Like we still are able to love all those parts of ourselves and really love ourselves. we fill our own cups up enough that we can then give.
Mm.
That's something I've also learned about myself too, is getting caught in that experience of like, oh, I just need to give more. I just need to give more. I just need to give more. And it's actually not really coming from a place of, it's coming from that place of, but I need it. I need something back. There's that expectation or that condition attached to it.
And can I just pick up? Yeah. Wow, you just beautiful. Like you just like centered in on conditioning. And I think just taking that a step further, everything, or so often our choices in life are conditional. So I make a choice, but I want something from it.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to smile at you, well, I fucking hope you smile back.
Yeah.
But the larger thing of unconditional love, and this is taking me a long time to get here, but I'm realizing, wow, it's possible. Is you smile not because you expect anything more, but because, as you said, your cup is overflowing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share it with you.
Yep.
Now, I've done the work so that I can fill my cup.
Exactly. Yeah.
But only we can fill our cup. Only we can make the choices that will get us to that place. And that's the hardest part, is learning, well, what is that?
Right.
Is it exercise? Is it spending time with certain people? Is it reading books?
Yeah.
Or listening to inspirational YouTube videos, or whatever it is? In my case, I really found like I had to surround myself with sunshine. Things that were sunshine for me, like reading books that are like, it is possible to be happy. It is? Okay. Wow. Show me. Listening to things. It is possible to do good things and spread love. It is. Show me.
Yeah.
So constantly being reminded, because I realized, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but it's something I want to just get off my chest, that I'm the kind of person, and I only came to realize this from spending all this time doing all these things, that I will often parrot, like just speak about the last thing that I read, did, saw. And I realized that so often I would surround myself with interesting things, but usually very dark, very heavy, very serious. So reading about the news, reading about what's going on in like foreign affairs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, but usually tinged with a great darkness. Like a lot of heaviness, like, oh, humankind can be very cruel. And I realized that was seeping into my blood like system, like to such a point where I'm like, oh, I need to be really cynical and cruel to myself almost in order to survive.
Yeah.
And I realized that was poisoning me.
Yeah.
I thought it was watering the garden, but actually like the water was like, it was rusted and it was awful, and it was destroying all the plants in my garden. Full of pesticides, like full of certainty, which I believe is what pesticides are, in my opinion. Like, certainty, we'll get rid of those creatures.
Right.
Those creatures are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Those pesticides are only creating more chaos, more turmoil. Anyway, but yes, thank you for pesticides.
Yeah, man. Oh man, that's so beautiful. And I hear you, man. Like I can imagine in that instance for you as well, like that, noticing how those things that you were consuming in a lot of ways were actually, they weren't draining, or they weren't filling you up, they were draining you.
They were draining me.
Ways. So then you're having to stay stuck in that kind of conditional place of, when I give, I'm expecting something in return, because I'm running on empty. I'm running on fumes. So like I need something to try to like fill me back up.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's such a tricky, vicious cycle, because I just want to just add something which I think is so important here, that when I made that discovery, so many emotions flooded like the system, a lot of grief of like, you've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
You've been poisoning the well for years. And then like having that idea and just letting it pass, like, because nothing good comes from beating myself up further. Like accepting, like radical acceptance, just accept what is. You don't have to like judge. You don't have to whip yourself into a frenzy. It's just like, okay. So this is what it is. Now, I want to be very clear, like, a part of me still revels and loves spending time reading an interesting article or learning about something. But I've realized, and man, thank you for sharing it before, I can only access it when I've filled my cup.
Yeah.
Because if not, if the cup is low down and I need sustenance, well, I'm only going to take 2 steps back if I make that choice.
Yeah.
And now I know that.
Yeah, for sure. It brings up an interesting question that I've also been sitting with, and I'm curious how this lands with you or resonates with you, which is that one thing I'm noticing for myself too is as I'm continuously coming back to this practice and idea of radical self-acceptance. Well, let me see how I want to kind of take this, because it could go a number of different ways. But I think that what I'm learning and discovering for myself is like, and I'm curious how your experience has been with this, or if it's felt similar in any ways, is that I sometimes will catch myself, and it's usually after the fact, of only kind of being in acceptance of certain parts of myself.
You know what I mean? Very important part.
Yeah, really kind of going to your point, like, okay, I feel that these parts of myself that do feel like sunshine, that do really make me feel like the sense of joy, the sense of awe and wonder in the world, and like doubling down on those things. But sometimes I find that like I'm also then I get a little bit too far down the rabbit hole, and I start to neglect the other parts of myself. And it's like, yeah, there's still the grief, there's still the sadness, there's still the shame that's also there. And, it's not what I found when I push those things aside and I only focus on the things that make me feel that sense of joy. I don't feel fully nourished. I don't feel fully full. And I guess what I'm learning and discovering is rediscovering, I should say, or remembering, is how do I meet those parts of myself with the same love, with the same sense of love and like compassion and empathy? Because I think my approach for such a long time was like, when it came to all those what I viewed as the darker parts of me, like my shadow and my insecurities and my fears and my doubts and just all the things that I judged myself for so harshly. It was always, how do I fix this? Right? How do I change it? How do I do that? And I think to your point, like coming back to this whole thing of radical self-acceptance, for me, and I was just writing this in my journal the other day, I was like, I'm so sick of feeling broken. Like I'm so sick of feeling like all these things are things that I have to fix. Like it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be operating in this way. And I don't even know if there's really a question.
No, dude.
At this point, I'm kind of just letting it rip. But yeah, I think this is sort of my initial thought that came through was, as part of this idea of radical self-acceptance and self-love, it feels like to me like this practice of expansion, like this expansion of my own awareness to include all of those parts of myself. And instead of approaching them with, how do I fix this? How do I change it? How do I get rid of it? Like move it through my body, which I think is important still in certain circumstances. But yeah, just also then just being like, and also just showing up in the world like exactly as I am.
Right.
Without needing to change, without needing to fix. That has been really helpful in starting to tap into that part of myself that's like, oh, and that from that place I actually don't need anything from the world. I can give more unconditionally. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Man, well, thank you for fucking sharing all of that. That's really, it resonates very strongly. And something, a part of like all of these note cards on the wall is to remind myself of the shadow selves, of the things in me that I am neglecting. I do choose optimism over negativity more often than not. But I know no, I feel more and more that that negativity are the things that I've left out in the cold.
Mm,
And what I'm really trying to work on now is realizing that they're all a part of me. Like
yeah.
the sadness and the shame and the guilt and the envy, and they're all me.
Yeah.
And I think it's like I really believe we can never really be made whole until we just are able to hold all of their hands. It's okay. Like, I said it, but like giving your sadness a cuddle, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just give it a cuddle, like.
Yeah.
And if you want to if you want to shed some tears, or you want to just like lie in bed, like in the fetal position, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be sad. Like, and spending time with my little niece, like, realize like it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. Like, it's healthy to be angry. It's healthy to be sad and mad and all of these things. Like,
Mm,
um, and I think until we embrace that and find ways to let it out in a healthy way, not
right.
take it out on other people.
Right.
But I really find like radical acceptance, that's a key part.
Yeah.
And I'm only starting to realize just how much my radical acceptance has left out
Yeah.
certain truths
Yeah. For sure.
from the party.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And I think it's, again, that's also that in itself of choosing or being selective about what we accept about ourselves
Yeah.
is, I think, also just an incredibly human thing.
Very much.
And yeah, like I had a thought this morning too. Again, while I was like, doing my journaling practice in the morning. And this comes from a book that I just recently read called Wild Mind by Bill Plotkin.
Oh,
Highly recommend as
all right.
well. And he talks about this idea or concept of how we have these parts of ourselves that he calls loyal soldiers.
Mm.
And the way that I kind of interpreted it was that there's basically these parts of ourselves from our ego that are really there to keep us safe, that are there to protect us. And there are soldiers. And I was thinking about that this morning as I was writing. I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for all of these mechanisms,
Right.
all of these patterns, all of these ways in which my ego has been constantly, like really my entire life, just fighting so damn hard to keep me safe. Like, what a beautiful thing. What a powerful thing to know that I have this part of myself that is the most loyal to me more than anybody else will ever be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? It's like, and that really helped. And then one thing I wrote down, which he shares, but it really kind of finally landed with me, was I was like, the war is over.
Oh,
Like, I can let the soldiers rest.
wow.
They don't need to keep fighting anymore. And I mean, even now, I'm just getting like goosebumps thinking about that idea, because it was like, yeah, just in my body that, whew, all right, like I feel this tension releasing. I feel myself being more open, being more relaxed, and like, and then another thing, just to go off of this quickly, which was,
Just noticed your. I don't know if it's.
yeah, we're good.
No. If it was just grazing your chest. Sorry, brother.
Oh, no, it's all good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Which was, yeah, this like coming back to kind of this inner child idea, or just really starting to tap into that more and more, learning from the children that we've both been recently spending more time with and connecting with, and what that's inspired in us. And something that's been coming through for me as well is like, yeah, just noticing the ways in which I really stifle, and these like comes back to this idea of like these loyal soldiers. Like, my ego gets in the way so much of me fully expressing the truth of how I'm feeling in each moment.
Yeah.
Whether it's my joy, whether it's my sadness, whether it's my anger, or like whatever it is. And I just, yeah, like had this kind of moment of like, okay, if I'm going to let these parts of me rest, if I'm going to let them start to come down, yeah, what does it feel like for me to really, express and share, not just through my words, but like through my actions, through the embodiment of all of that, through like my breath and my gaze and like all of these things. And that piece for me is also now like it's exciting, to really kind of go through this process of the remembering and discovering
Right.
Of all these things.
It's very fucking exciting to hear you say that, my man. I think you really picked up on something that's it's just been like really getting at me in reflecting on myself and my journey to how I am today. But just this notion that we are at war with ourselves.
Yeah.
And if there's any conflict within us, there's civil war going on. And one side is saying this, one side saying that. But we're all one body, we're all one mind. So this notion of like fragmented ideas, and it's so heartbreaking just to realize how we can go so wrong.
Yeah.
And I saw something yesterday. Wow, it just came to me. But it's like it was just an image of like a human outline, and then just like the words were like, "We are the most incredible instrument or like design on Earth." Like in terms of like we are pure intelligence. When the caveat being when we are listening to ourselves, when we are unified, when we are whole.
Yeah.
And in terms of more like, and something I've really been like tuning into more and more, especially just with myself and using myself as the instrument, but just the power of energy. That like, and I wrote this down, like, some of the most beautiful moments in my life have been in the company of people that are just vibrating.
Yeah.
Everyone's just alive.
Yeah.
And I've realized that energy has nothing to do with the mind. It's about the body. It's about like being in our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And letting that like tell the story, like narrate like our present, our future. And it's like, wow. So just the idea of like, when one side of our brain is picking a fight with the other, and then this side is picking a fight with that, and oh, you're a piece of shit, and I can't believe you did that. We are so behind the eight ball in even getting to that place.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, and I really believe that the only answer coming back is self-love.
Yeah.
Is being kind and learning just to observe. You don't have to do anything about it, but just allow yourself just to see patterns, write it down. And I usually find that's the most helpful way to just purge it. Just write it down, and there it is. Right, you do that at that time. Okay, well, at least if you do it again, and you will probably most likely do it again. There it is. You're remembering, I did it that time, and I did it again, and I did it again.
Yeah.
And now you just start to realize, like, okay, well, these are what's getting in the way of me being truly in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where that came from,
I absolutely love that. And the piece that you said, which I resonate with so deeply, and now am learning, is for me, like how I'm wanting to continue to like orient myself and like seek out or search for, in a way too, is that sense of vibrancy, is that sense of aliveness in the world. And to be with people who have that same kind of vitality.
Yes.
And the more that, again, I cultivate that in myself, I do find that, I do start to like attract more people into kind of my orbit and world who have that similar energy, frequency, whatever you want to call it. And the other thing too is I also notice how many people like don't feel that way in the same way, which is also really heartbreaking too. And it's just sometimes when I'm feeling like very alive and in tune and in connection to that like deeper wisdom, and then going out into the world, and I just see everybody like this, and me kind of like walking around, and it's like, whoa, wow. And I'm so that way too. I get so I mean, I just saw my screen time today, and I was like, oh my God, holy shit. But
Sunday screen time, man. Screen time always. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I don't know why they created that feature.
Why on a Sunday as well?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
fucking shit.
Of all the days, man. Yeah, but it's so interesting to see how, yeah, noticing there does seem to be this sense of, yeah, really lacking like kind of the vitality and the vibrancy that is available to us,
Yes.
that we
Yeah.
do have access to. And it does require like practice and
Yeah.
cultivation and all these things.
And I just wanted, man, I'm loving our conversations always, but it's like, it's that beautiful, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Right.
And I think the thing I'm starting to realize more and more, especially in the 21st century, with the age of the smartphone, which is how probably most of you are watching this fucking thing, is that we don't even know there's water there anymore. We're so blind. Like there's gorgeous, flowing, nutritionist, like water right there. But we're just so lost in our own world.
And dehydrated.
And we're thirsty. That's why we're miserable. We're fucking thirsty. We're hungry. We're malnourished. We're desperate. We want the answers.
Yeah.
But the choices, the habits that we keep are going to keep us from ever finding the promised land.
For sure.
And, it's like the thing that I just want to really share from this week that was really important. I had this moment just even yesterday, and I'm like, well, I fucking got to share it with Tim tomorrow. But it's doubt. And coming back that when I'm sad, I do bad.
Yeah.
And really just observing myself, seeing certain patterns, and noticing that wanting that to just hide away, to stand still, to just slip into my fortress of solitude and just shut out the world.
Yeah.
And the one thing I really found like with this doubt is like wanting to push away my sadness. And then just realizing, like, I went for a walk and I was like, I'm sad. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. These feelings I've had in the wake of a certain someone saying certain things to me that are we never think it's justified. I think this is an important thing when it comes to love and caring for someone else. Like certain things that are shared are often like, that feels hurtful, that feels so wrong, and how they said it and why they said it. Anyway, it was said, but all we can do is respond. That's the only agency we have in life.
Yeah.
So someone says something to us, it's only how we respond that is our choice. That's our only choice.
Right.
And I've realized that when we are filling our cup and taking time to learn what it is that fills our cup and what it is that drains our cup, but when we are making that active choice, then we can learn to make space before reacting in any given moment. And I've realized that space has allowed me to make the choice more often than not. And this week has been a really interesting test to choose love over hate or love over fear.
Yeah.
And just to realize like it's my choice, and it's always been my choice.
Yeah.
And this is the hardest like one to like accept is
yeah.
And I just quickly, the last thing I want to just say, because I stumbled back over this note I left for myself, that the derivation, like the root of responsibility, the word responsibility, has nothing to do with what we call responsibility today of like, oh, I need to be responsible for my family and paying my taxes and all of that. No, to be responsible is to actually listen and be of service to yourself. That is the root cause. So to be responsible is to be at our service, to be of service for ourselves.
Wow.
And I was like, and that is like really at the heart of everything that I hopefully just tried to get across.
Yeah. No, wow. I mean, I had no idea that was like the root of that word, but it makes so much sense to know and understand that, like, responsibility is, I forget exactly how you phrased it, but just yeah, it's to be of of service and responsible for ourselves, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, and our response.
And our response,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, in that way. At least that's what was like
that's
kind of coming for me.
that's the truth,
Yeah,
as
and
I
like being
understand
in
it.
service of our own truth,
Yeah.
and yeah, like yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I love the way that you phrase that, and it's such a powerful reframe around this idea of responsibility because I think we do often so much think of responsibility as only things that are like outside of ourselves
Outside.
and external, like you
Mm-hmm.
were saying, the family and the taxes, and for sure, like yeah, we can be responsible for those things and
Sure.
take responsibility for them, but ultimately, it always comes back to us. It always comes back to ourselves, um, and and to come back to one thing that you were touching on earlier as well, like I love that idea of the space, especially in those moments when there is that sense of closure
Right.
or the desire for closure and that habitual pattern, that habitual tendency. And I'm
Mm.
so glad you're saying this and brought this up because I also went through an experience recently where I felt that same thing, where I was in a moment with somebody where I was just sharing this with you earlier before we got on. There was this moment where there was the opportunity for me to open and to allow for more depth, allow for more connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt the closure, and I felt that the walls go up. I felt the withdrawal
Mm-hmm.
within myself, and it was so interesting to observe that, like really
Mm.
like in the moment, and yeah, just allow to kind of start to try to create some space, and in that space, then be able to choose what is in service of love.
Right.
How can I allow for more love to simply flow through in this moment? And I think and it kind of comes back to what we've been sort of touching on in a lot of ways too, of not having that be something that we also then judge ourselves for.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
there's no right or wrong way to do that.
No.
And there's no, it's not, and this is something I got caught up with too, because I was reflecting back on that moment being like, fuck, man, like you could have done this, or you could have said this in this way. And that would have likely more, allowed more love to flow through you
Mm-hmm.
and brought more love and connection into that moment, and really starting to get down on myself for that, of like, fuck, dude, like, you say you're about all these things and you're reading all the books and you're doing all the practices, and just yeah, reminding myself that, oh yeah, like life is the practice, and in that moment, even the space, even the awareness, is different than how I typically operate.
Right.
And there's in that space and in that change, that break away from the conditioned pattern and belief of the closure and the withdraw, just being able to like slow down, to be able to breathe, and yeah, just allow for more of what wants to emerge and come through in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
is such a practice.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the interesting thing too about like love, or this idea of concept of love and like allowing it to flow through
Mm-hmm.
as well. That's something I'm noticing more and more in myself too, is like I'm trying to come at it up here. I'm trying to come at it of like, what's my mind telling me that I need to do in order to allow more love to flow through?
Right.
And that's only going to, that's never going to work.
Right.
It's never really, because it's still oriented in that way of what can I get out of it?
Yes.
It's still rooted in that sort of ego mind of, I'm only going to do this way because I know that it's going to elicit some specific type of reaction.
Very
So,
interesting.
yeah, it's like when this process of allowing love to be emerged and flow through me, and we've touched on this too in our other conversations as well, is like it is so much there, we can never know what will happen next.
No.
And that's, I think, obviously such a scary part because we desire that certainty so much.
Yeah.
And we've convinced ourselves that that's what we need to keep ourselves safe. in the world. But yeah, like that's something I'm noticing more and more is instead of how can I just simply allow for what wants to move through me in the moment
Mm-hmm.
to just flow through without any expectation or attachment to the outcome.
Ah, beautiful.
And fuck, it's hard, man.
No, it's not
It's
easy at all. No.
so hard. And that's another thing about the acceptance piece too. Just like, yeah, this is hard.
Yes.
Like
Uh, I,
I've tried to convince myself that it's easy,
I
and it's
mean,
just not.
I hope for anyone listening, just hearing the two words radical acceptance. I mean, radical isn't a nice word to me. It's tough. Like
Yeah,
it's tough
yeah,
for a reason. But I think that's so important. And I just you inspired me just to confess one other thing, and it's like um, when everything kind of went pear shaped with this romantic other this week. I had this instant feeling from a message that was sent of you knew this was coming. Like
mm,
your inner child told you that this person was playing with your heart. Not necessarily
mm,
knowingly, not with no bad intention,
mm,
just that they may not have been ready,
mm,
wherever they are in their life. And you doubted it. You pushed it back away.
mm.
And I think and I'm saying this like hopefully in a way like of like trust your instincts, trust your gut,
Yeah,
you know, because I really find like more often than not, like the post-mortem of any given anything, a project, a person, whatever that has fallen apart or ended,
mm-hmm.
if I look back, I know when it fell apart, and it was a lot sooner than, or a lot earlier than whenever it did,
Right,
implode.
right.
In terms of like, it was my gut. Like my gut knew all along. I told myself, or I thought myself out of it. And
Mm,
I think it's interesting. It comes back to that, for me, the interesting idea on the loyal soldiers. Like
mm-hmm.
soldiers are good at fighting, but they're not necessarily good at like peacekeeping. Like that's not their
Yeah,
job.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think we have like these kind of these other parts of us that are always whispering us our truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
you should relax, you should go have a nap, you should
totally.
eat something, you should drink some water, and we push it away. We push it away. We push it away. I've got no time. I'm too busy. Or this person told me I should. There's nothing to worry about, or whatever it is. But we should take time to trust
Yeah,
our gut.
absolutely, man. And it's so interesting you say that, and thank you so much for sharing all that as well. I really appreciate that because to me that like ties so it's such a beautiful example of a lot of these things that we've been talking about, and my experience was so similar in that way too. Of
Ah,
like, I did really ignore that instinct, that
right,
intuitive wisdom, and that intuitive knowing,
right.
um, and didn't follow it. And to me, it comes back to this whole thing that we've been talking about around responsibility. Like that's the responsibility to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that this is another thing that I'm learning and seeing from this experience for myself as well, which is that the expression of that truth in that moment when it comes up,
Mm-hmm.
and it, like you said, we stifle it, we ignore it, we push it away, our mind, our ego talks ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
But when we can come back to that innate intelligence within ourselves
Mm-hmm.
that we know is true for us, we know is our truth, we know it's what our heart is desiring, we know it's what our soul like needs
Mm-hmm.
in that moment. And when we allow for that to be expressed and be shown and shared in whatever way, like that's in service of love, that is in devotion to love, right? It's
Beautiful.
like that to me is what I'm learning of. If I had shared that in that space of radical acceptance of that truth and allowed it to emerge without my ego mind getting in the way,
Right.
without trying to get anything out of the experience,
Mm-hmm.
but just simply allow it to be expressed and be shown and felt in the world with this person or whatever the experience is, like that's love. That to me, that's love flowing through.
Mm.
That's the energy, the channel, just being open And yeah, just coming out of the mind and allowing for that intelligence and wisdom in the body. And I love the way you're saying that. Like we don't trust that.
Yeah.
We really
Yeah.
don't so often, and it's part of the remembering. It's
Oh,
part of the rediscovering.
I love
Right?
it. We're
It's
back.
like,
We're back.
yeah, like
Yep.
that part of us that's always been there. That part of us has always been there and will always be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more, and that's, I think for me, like, you know, it's funny. This has happened a few times over the course of this conversation where I really feel like such a surge of excitement and energy, because it does feel like through these experiences, there's been such a massive shift for me in just being like, oh yeah, like I actually really now want to share that so much more deeply. And there's a lot less fear. There's a lot less, the loyal soldiers are really starting to feel like they can like lay down the weapons. And it really does come from that idea we've been saying of like, I don't, I want to just simply express it for the sake of expressing it.
Yep.
Whatever happens, whatever
Right.
the outcome is, whatever the expectation is.
You have no say in what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is the most important part though. You never have.
Yeah.
Even if you have certainty by your side and you're saying, ha, 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 it'll be fine. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I know that's daunting, but I really believe that we can change that narrative and that we can learn to embrace it with love. And I think, like, man, you and me both, I feel so fucking alive from this conversation. I started it with a hangover and in my head, and now I'm like in my body again. And I also just want to I think this is a really beautiful way to round out tonight or today, because I think we can take these, what I would have called in the past, like traumatic memories, events, heartbreak or falling out with friends, and use them as life lessons, as learning of like, what can I do, or how can I use these experiences and grow from them. And I think it's like, I was writing this, I was at a jazz night last night and I was so inspired just listening to this music, and I just wrote this thing that I thought was so important for me, that it's not about being better or stronger or smarter. It has nothing to do with that, like the process of growing. It's about becoming more us, more ourselves.
Yes.
That's it.
Wow.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Because we're all different. We're all wired differently. And I think that's what I love more and more about life. And that's something that collapses certainty in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Because there is no certainty when you look at all the different people and who they are and what they really love and what they don't love and all of these things. And so I think, like, what I really take from, the excitement that you had, even just in looking at this recent romantic event, is that, like, wow, like, you've remembered certain truths that you want to carry forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we can do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I love the way that you phrase that, and that all of these experiences are, yeah, like teaching us, or moments of opportunities to learn who we really are.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's, I think, like exactly what this experience has really started to show me. It's like, oh yeah, like now I feel so much more myself. Wow. I feel so much more connected and true to who I am. And that's also just the culmination of all of the work, right? Since and just all of life, right? It's like you said, it continuously shows us and reflects back to us. And coming back to this idea of life as the practice, right? That's something I've tried to hold more and more, is like viewing all of these experiences, relationships, events, things that happen to us in our lives, as opportunities.
Right.
Opportunities to practice, opportunities to remember,
Oh.
opportunities to come back to ourselves. And yeah, like really, again, for me, I keep coming back to this idea of the remembering and the discovering, and just having that kind of dance that's really what it feels like for me. And I love this idea of dance because it adds this element of like some play to it,
Oh my God.
which that's another thing. I'll just quickly just throw this in as
Please.
well before we wrap up, which is like something I'm really, I think this is like one of the loyal soldiers in me that's really starting to dissipate and come away from, or just lay down his weapons, so to speak, is that this work or just life and these experiences and growth and change has to be so serious all the time. And I just have been in this state for a very long time, and I feel like I'm like kind of sobering up and looking around. It's like, dude, what have you been doing for these last like several months where life has felt so serious and so dense? And of course, like, yeah, like heavy, dense things happen to us in our life.
Yes. Yeah.
There's intense trauma and loss and pain and grief and all these things that I've certainly been experiencing in the last several years of my life. But yeah, there's also like, I'm now just at a place where I'm like, but there's so much play. There's so much
Ah,
lightness that's also there and available. And that's something that feels like is now more accessible and available to me, that this loyal soldier of like, it has to be serious, it has to be intense, it has to be, oh, it has to be like suffering to
yep.
like
Yep.
work through it and muscle through it. And I'm just like, wait, what if it's, yeah, what if it is more of this dance? What if it is more of this flow? And
Oh man.
what if it is more of just this like, finding the beauty and the tension of the pain and the sorrow and the growth and the learning, um yeah, rather than it just being like, okay, like I gotta sit down and work through my grief and work through my sadness and work through my trauma and
Yeah.
have it be like really structured and intense and serious all the time. It's like, what if it's just this beautiful dance of like, yeah, there can be some structure and there can be just some flow. And what if it's just, yeah, like in the moment again, what wants to come through, what
Man,
wants to be emerged.
I love to love it. And I just want to quickly just say, you really just inspired like a beautiful memory from being back home. And by one of the beaches, there's just like a big sign. We have Australia's famous for rips, like just like getting just dragged out into the middle of nowhere. And it has this big yellow print. It just says, float to survive.
Wow.
And I come back to that, and just the beautiful fucking point of like just all the heaviness that you've been enduring, that I think we all endure. Hey, if you turn on the news, you're bound to come away with some heaviness. And for me, it's like I come back to that float to survive. If we're heavy, we sink.
Yeah.
And what happens when we sink? Well, we drown.
Yeah.
So we've got no more life left to live. And so I really believe like more and more like in this notion of surrender, as being a big part of like my daily practice is just float to survive. Just let the tide take you where it takes you.
Yeah.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's always been bigger than you. And
sure.
I think now when we embrace it like a game, like a dance, I just think life gets better.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, yeah, no notes, nothing to add.
Man, a pleasure as always.
As always, man.
Fuck.
So beautiful. Whew.
Man, if this is like one of the things I look forward to filling my cup, man.